Okay, so lab procedures for Core 1, all right? So we're going to have labs in person in X111. So most of what I'm saying here, I will reiterate when we're talking face-to-face in the lab. You will be working in groups in the lab. Usually your tables are a group, and the submissions of lab will be done directly to me. So you're not turning these in online. So don't try to. I don't have a way for you to actually do that. If you do it by accident or something, I probably won't see it. So like if you get a 0 for that lab, it just means that I did not see your assignment. So you need to just talk to me about it and we'll figure out like what you need to do, okay? I collect the review questions and or the apply your knowledge questions for each of the labs and grade that part only. I don't grade how much you filled out the other portions of the lab. However, you should fill out the other portions of the lab because that will help you when you're studying for the exam to understand what was supposed to be happening in each of the experiments, what you were supposed to see, etc., that kind of thing. Some of the labs don't have both the review questions and apply your knowledge, so you would just do whichever part is presented for you. But basically, it's all the questions at the end of the lab, and occasionally I will add some extra things in there, like an extra page that you have to fill out. There's a couple of labs that have some exercises within the lab itself that I want to see that you know how to do, okay? So I'll tell you what that is in lab, so no worries about that. All right, so make sure that you get a lab manual. You're going to need a lab manual, and you should have it the first day of class. If you do not, it's okay for the first day, but you will definitely need it the second day. There are more things about the lab that I will tell you in lab, but basically, when you show up to lab, you should have long pants. You should have your legs covered. You can have a long skirt or long pants. You have to have closed-toed shoes, and you do not need a lab coat or glasses, but those are helpful if you would like them, and no food or drink. But there are a few other things, but we'll talk about those when you come to the lab, but that would just be helpful if you knew that on the first day. In the lab, I'll be dividing you guys into groups. Usually the lab tables are a group. These groups can help you interact with other people and help you make friends, but also they can be people that you can study with at exam time for both lecture and lab. And you can, if you're doing well in the labs, please help the other people in your group to try to pull them up. And if you are, having trouble, make sure you ask the other people in the group that seem to understand, or ask me, or ask one of the other peers in the other tables. It's fine to ask other people. You can organize how you work at your lab table however you like, but the point is to make it through the labs in a timely way. I will suggest some things when you're in there about how to do each lab, because the labs vary depending on what you're doing. And the main thing I suggest is like to complete the labs by working together, but be sure that you look at every single part. So what isn't good for you guys to do is to do separate parts and then not ever see the parts that the other people do. You need to understand completely what the other people do in the part that they're doing if you divide up. If you don't divide up, sometimes you will not have enough time. So again, I will kind of specify what I think would work best in each particular lab. But if it's a lab where you actually divide the work, you're gonna need to make sure that you look at what other people are doing. Then after you complete the lab, you can do the review questions and apply your knowledge. And it's best if you do those by yourself. So I suggest that you actually go home after the lab, spend time contemplating the lab and doing that particular part. You can also do it in the lab if there's time, but sometimes there isn't. And then come back to the lab and discuss those with your partners before you hand in the assignment. All right, so everyone is going to be handing in their labs because I want to make sure that you guys all did all parts of the review questions. In other words, that you have something in your book about those review questions, apply your knowledge, etc. But I will only grade one per group, and you guys can designate which persons I grade. So it could vary from week to week, or you can have a group leader. Like if you have somebody who writes very precisely in print, like you can read their writing and you like how their labs look. As long as you agree with their answers. So the idea is that you get together and you discuss the answers and you share information and you all agree on the one that is being graded. All right, so but I'm going to take everyone's up just to make sure that you all do all the labs all the time. That way, if somebody, for example, if you designated somebody as the person that hands it in and they don't happen to be there the day that it's due, then if you've already filled it out, you can hand it in and it won't be late. So that will help you in that regard. And also if somebody drops, you'll have the information, just all of that, etc. Now there are some hints to how to study for lab exams that are in the video script of this page. So make sure that you check that out when it comes time for the lab exams. And if you have questions about that, when you get started, we can discuss it in lab.